The theme that we've chosen for today is business disaster. And for the topic for today is what went wrong at Enron. So, obviously, the company that we've chosen today is about Enron. Before we begin, I would like to introduce my teammate. I'm Jikin. We'll be talking about introduction. Ken will be talking about financial performance and illegal practices by Enron. Next, Jahin will be focused on corruption management and the downfall of Enron. Lastly, Elston will be concluding our presentation. So, today, I believe the majority of audience here does not know what is Enron about. Well, that's not unusual because Enron started back in the 80s, where most of us here are not born yet. Well, so now, allow me to give all of you a brief history on what Enron is. Enron is formed by a merger between two energy companies in 1985. And Ken Lay was appointed as the CEO of the company. All of you here may want to remember his name, as he will be important for the later part of our presentation. What are Enron usually selling? What are the products that Enron provide? Is natural gas, electricity, and other commodities. At the peak of Enron has employed over 20,000 employees and has accumulated over $60 billion in assets. Well, it was stated as the largest company and also the largest corporation in US. So, for 6 years in a row, Fortune magazine listed Enron as the most innovative, most admired company in the United States. As you can see from these slides here, Fortune magazine said that Enron was the best company to work for. Under the top 10, you can see Enron was the first, right? So, next, one of the pioneer things that Enron did was having a innovation, a creative innovation which is called the concept of energy trading. It was simply a brilliant idea because it transformed natural gas to financial instruments, which is traded like stock and bonds. And now it proves to be a huge success because it was now stated the largest energy merchant in the United States by 1992. At 2000, Enron merged with broadband service, combined with broadband service to create a service with blockbusters. For example, movies on demand, right? Movies on demand, and because of all this innovation, their stock price jumps up to 34% in 2 days. For a normal investor like us, it feels really weird. In 2 days, can up to 34. But for fixed deposit, you need to wait for 3% in a year. So it's for us, it's weird. So now I'll give all of you a glimpse on how the stock price looks like. Well, as you can see here, Enron stock price from 1998 to 2000. For right now, let's focus on 1999 on the end of the year, 31st of December 1999. It's situated at $40, right? And we look at the next year, 1 year, at September 2000, it was at $80. So which means it was a 100% jump. So don't you feel weird? For us, if a 100% jump in a year, it would be a great profit for us. For now, may be weird, but the fact was at the end of 1999, it was real. So after telling you all the good things about Enron, after showing you all the good things about Enron, what actually went wrong at Enron? Enron, to inform the unscrupulous and illegal business practice performed by Enron. So now, what actually went wrong at Enron? I'll pass it to Ken.
Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you Daniel for the presentation. Now before we begin my part of the presentation, I just want to show you something. This is about Enron's financial. Can you go back? Can you go back? Yeah. So as you can see, this is Enron's revenue history. You can see that from 1999 to 2000, Enron's revenue has grown from $40 billion US dollars to over $100 billion US dollars. Their revenue has more than doubled in just 1 year. And going back to this stock chart, I just want to ask a very simple question to all of you. Will you invest in Enron stock? Well, if the answer is no, there will be a very stupid answer at the time. Now just pretend that you invested heavily into Enron stock and expecting a nice profit next year. Well, I'm very sorry to disappoint you that you have just lost all your investment. what was once trading at the $80 range has now fallen to just under $1. So what happened here? To know what happened, we need to go back to Enron's revenue chart. Now it turns out that everything I've been showing you so far is actually fake. How Enron did this is through something we call mark-to-market accounting. This thing allowed Enron to recognize profit when there's no profit. Enron is basically a financial fantasy land where they can report a profit, but at the same time they're losing money. For example, the deal with Blockbuster just now, Daniel has mentioned, it was an absolute disaster. And at the end, Enron made no money at all. But due to mark-to-market accounting, Enron is able to recognize a profit of over $100 million. Now I know what you're thinking. What about the auditors? What about the accountants? You know, had the auditors and accountants done their job properly, they would have seen red flags all over the place. No, but they weren't doing their job properly. They weren't doing their job at all. They were being paid by Enron to look the other way. Well, this is just a demonstration. Instead of 50 ringgit, Enron is actually paying $1 million to the auditors every single week. So the name of the auditors, Arthur Andersen. At the time, it was one of the big 5 accounting firms. Now we only have big 4s. Because just like Enron, Arthur Andersen didn't survive the scandal. So moving on to the next thing that Enron has did to the public is through something we call is that they're intentionally causing blackout. Since Enron extended their business in electricity in California, Enron's traders has found out that by shutting down the power plants in the state, they could create an artificial demand of electricity that will drive the price of electricity up. Now just listen to this. Well, these people, at the flip of a switch, oh shit, sorry. These people, at the flip of a switch, can just completely shut down the economy of California, and they did it, and they did it, and they did it, and they did it, and they make so much money. In the end, Enron is able to profit of nearly $2 billion by using this method. Now, this is just some of the ways that Enron has fooled the public. For the next part, I would like to pass it to my teammate Jackie.
Thanks, Ken. Good morning, Mr. D and all my friends. So now I'm talking about the corruption within management in Enron. So just now, Ken has mentioned that the accounting firm is not doing their job, but who are responsible on the fraud of Enron's end? 2 of the top executives has blamed for this. Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling. Both of them are profited heavily on Enron stocks by using an insider trading skills. Means that pumps and dump. Pumps and dump means that the company would artificially inflate the price of company stocks through false and misleading positive statements. And when the share price goes up, they will sell their stock and make millions of profits. By using this method, Ken Lay sold around $300 million of stock, while Jeff Skilling sold around $200 million on Enron stock before the stock price plummeted. And one of the things is, Jeff Skilling and Ken Lay always encourage stock-based compensation. Stock-based compensation means that Enron is using their stocks to pay their employees instead of cash. Not only this, they also encourage their employees to invest in Enron and claiming that the company is in a good shape. But on the other side, the top executives start to sell off their stock because they knew that the collapse of Enron is imminent. Another executive that related in this scandal is Andrew Fastow, the CFO of Enron. Andrew Fastow created hundreds of special purpose entities, for short SPEs. Actually, what Andrew Foster did was basically transferring all the bad debts and assets of Enron into his SPEs. And all of a sudden, Enron's debt has disappeared from their financial reports. Maybe for the outsiders, it seems like the cash coming in to the door. But in reality, Enron is just pushing all their debts into faster SPEs. Now, the downfall of Enron. At late 2001, speculations and suspicions on Enron's profits, on Enron's financial well-being begin to surface. Many investors doubt Enron's profit and transparency after they are unable to produce a tangible cash flow statement. On November 8, Enron announced a restatement of its financial statements back to 1997 to reflect the company's actual financial position. The restatement resulted in $591 million in losses over these 4 years, and with an additional of $628 million in liabilities and debts. So next, the empire of Enron is really beginning to crumble, when Sharon Watkins, a former vice president of Enron's corporations, reported the fraud to government authorities. When she found out that the accounting irregularities that relating to faster SPEs in Enron's book. Finally, on 2nd of December 2001, Enron declared bankruptcy. At that time, this was the largest corporation bankruptcy in the American history. So the aftermath is huge. Around 20,000 of employees lost their jobs, and 1.2 billion of their employee retirement funds has just simply vanished. For those who were behind this scandal, Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling have both been found guilty on the fraud and insider trading, and lastly sentenced to jail. On the other hand, the accounting firm Arthur Andersen went into dissolution. So looking back in the hindsight, what can we learn in this disaster? I will pass this part to my teammate Aston. Thank you.
Thank you, my teammate Jahin. Good morning, everyone. In summary, my teammates have presented the unprecedented growth of Enron and how it was possible due to the illegal accounting practice held by Arthur Andersen. They also mentioned about who were the responsible due to these scandals and how the aftermath within the Enrons and that affects its employee. Now, I will show you a short video that embodies Enron's story.
I believe the only venue for me is the Ride of Broken Dreams. Oh, you mean the Enron ride? Let's go!
We're all gonna be rich!
It's uneven!
Funny, right? But if you think in the shoes of investor, it's very depressing to say the least. Now, before we conclude this presentation, let me reiterate our purpose of this presentation. What we want to do is to inform the unscrupulous and illegal business practice performed by Enron. The fraud of Enron is about systematic corruption. They are supposed to be check and balance in the system. The bankers are supposed to say no. The accountants are supposed to say no. The lawyers are supposed to say no. But in the end, nobody who was supposed to say no. They are told their share of the money from the fraud and put in their pockets. In conclusion, what we can learn from this scandal is about how Enron has fooled and betrayed on millions and millions of Americans and how easy abused the accounting system is. When the dust settles, all of those who invest in Enron has lost their investment, some even life-saving. Now, due to this scandal, a set of new accounting regulation is introduced, namely Sarbanes-Oxley Act, that dramatically changed the industry because it wasn't functioning as supposed to. Let me briefly talk about this act. This act is aimed to amend and supplement the existing law dealing with security regulations of financial practice and corporate governance. One of the reasons that made Enron disaster is so interesting is because the bankruptcy is not caused by external environment factors such as market trends, but by internal factors. The top management in the company is engaged in unethical and unlawful business practice to fuel their own grip. Final say. The Enron story highlights the importance of business ethics and integrity. In a business environment, we should uphold those values to the highest degree, and the moral value and the ethics should be our forefront of our business practice. For future investors, when sometimes things look too good to be true, sometimes it is. Thank you very much.